Hi there and welcome into this beginner's tutorial for Unreal Engine. In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching the basics of Unreal Engine so that you can handle your first interaction with the engine itself. So I'm going to be teaching you the basics of blueprints as well as teaching you since the beginning, so how you can get the engine, how you can create your first project, and I'm going to be teaching about a lot of awesome tools in Unreal Engine such as landscape modeling tools, foliage, and things like how to get assets from the marketplace and from pixel grid as well. And I'm going to be teaching a little bit about animation blueprint so that you can set your own animations, how to create inputs for your characters, so that you know how to create the new input actions for Unreal Engine 5. And of course, everything is going to be made in the newer version of Unreal Engine, that is Unreal Engine 5.3. So I hope with this you can have the grasp and know a bit more about how you can add your own content to the engine, and of course lose the fear about creating your own first game. The first thing that you need to do is to get the Unreal Engine. For that, we are going to go into Epic Games website, and for those that doesn't know, Unreal Engine was created by Epic Games, so it's a product of Epic Games. For that, to get the Unreal Engine inside your computer, you first need to get the Epic Games platform. So just go into their website and then download Epic Games platform. Once you have downloaded that, should be looking something like this. This is their platform. Actually, I think it should be in the story, so it should be like this for you. Here on the left, just select Unreal Engine, and this is the main platform of Unreal Engine in Epic Games. Here, the first thing that you're going to see is some news. Then you also get to see a few sample projects that you can learn how to create new things using their assets to learn materials. And here we have the marketplace. I'm going to be explaining about this marketplace further in the video, but this is basically where you can either download or share your assets. Then you also have the library, and that's what you're going to be using to get the version of Unreal Engine that you desire to use. So for this video, I'm going to be using 5.3. To get a new version, if you have just downloaded the Unreal Engine, just go over here, click this button, and then it's going to create this. Just select the version that we're going to be using. For this tutorial, at least go above version 5. That is the very minimum. Once you have selected the version that you want to install, just click install, and that should be it. It's going to take a little bit of time according to your internet connection and your computer as well. It's going to be asking a few permissions as well, but just accept everything. And once you have downloaded it, it's going to be looking something like this. You can either launch by here or over here as well, and here you can select the version. If you have multiple versions, just do like that. The current date, the newer version is 5.3, so this is the one I'm going to be using. I'm going to be launching it. The first time it may take a little bit more of time than it's going to take me, but just wait a bit. And this is the Unreal Project Browser. Over here you can see if you have already used Unreal Engine. Over here you're going to be seeing a few projects. You can either select one of them if you want to use for this tutorial, but I'm going to be creating one from the start. So for that, I am going to Games, and as you can see, there are other options as well. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you the basics, the beginner guide for the creation of games, but the Unreal Engine is used to other things as well. So for movie creations, architecture, automotive, and simulation. But for our case, we are going to be selecting games, and over here there are a few template projects, a few projects that has some logic created from the start. The first one is going to be for first person, then third person, top down, vehicle, virtual reality, and handheld R. This is for augmented reality. And they are pretty good if you don't want to start from the very beginning, from the zero. But for this tutorial, I'm going to be creating a blank project. This is a project without any logic, because even through this can accelerate the process of creation your first game. At the same time, if you're a beginner, you first need to understand how these things works. So I'm going to be teaching you how to create your first character, how movements work, how inputs works, so that if you want to expand or change something, you're not going to be necessarily breaking everything just to make a small change. And for that reason, I'm going with a blank project. So over here, I have first our project name. I think for this, let's just name it our, let's say, first project, like that. And over here, we have a few options as well. So there's an option for Blueprint and C++. If you're using Blueprint, you can still use C++ after that. There's not a big of a deal with that. I'm going to be focusing on Blueprints. And then we also have the target platform. In our case, it's going to be desktop, the quality presets. In my case, I'm going to be leaving at maximum. If you want to start with the starter content, that is option as well. I think I'm going to be selecting this option because there are a few assets that I may use or I may not, I'm not sure yet. Then we also have ray tracing. And this option is to select if you want to start with ray tracing. Just a small tip, if you are serious about using ray tracing in your project, you might consider, instead of using this template from Epic Games, to instead go to HXDI. So there is a GitHub to get the new version of, should be this GitHub over here. So this is, of course, if you want to get serious about using RTX in your game. So this is a branch of Unreal Engine that has a few modifications to do a little bit better. Exactly, not just a little bit, but there's a lot better with ray tracing. If you have watched about Cyberpunk, the new modifications that were done with that, I think the main modification was that is using ray tracing DI, that is from this branch. So if you are serious about using ray tracing, I highly recommend, instead of getting this option, actually you're going to get this option, but instead downloading this branch, going to this branch from NVIDIA, and download this branch of Unreal Engine and using it. I think right now it has for 5.2 and doesn't have for 5.3. Is always going to be a little bit behind from the newer versions of Epic Games, because this is not, it's basically the same version that were made by Epic Games, but with the modification. So they have to create, debug a bit, and see if they are not adding anything that could break your game. So for that reason, if Epic Games release a newer version like 5.3 and 5.4 and so on, they're going to be a little bit behind by a few weeks, and that's just normal. Just wait a bit if you want to use that, and then you're going to have the same options as you can see over here. And then you can also select ray tracing. Of course, if you don't want that, you can select ray tracing right here. I'm just saying that if you go by this route, even though it's going to be a little bit more complicated, you're going to have a lot of better results than just going with normal ray tracing like you would be going over here. But for this project, I'm not going to be using ray tracing, so I'm going to just leave this as blank and hit create. Let's wait a bit. It will not take too much time, but of course, if it's the first time, it may take a little bit longer, and it's going to scale based on your machine. So let's wait a bit. Now, this is our first project. If you are creating from a blank project, you should be seeing something like this. I want to create completely from scratch, so instead I'm not even going to be using this because I want to show you a few things as well. So I think for you, you should not see the full screen like this, should be like that or something like that. You can, if you're not seeing the actors panels like it is right here, should be, if you select over here, you can see these options to place actors panel, and you should be seeing like that. I prefer to leave this over here because it's a little bit easier, and you can also just push to the side if you want to get the full view. That is an option as well. So the first thing that I want to do is to go to full screen, And I'm going to go to make a small modification, but you don't need to do that. I'm going to be doing that only to increase the widget of the Unreal Engine itself, to make it a little bit easier for you guys to see what I'm doing over here. And the first thing that I'm going to be doing is to go into File, and I'm going to go into New Level, 1 second, New Level over here. And then I'm going to create a basic level. So this is the level that we're going to be using in our game. So I'm going to also be saving this, save going to level S, and then here on start the content, this is going to be our main word. Of course, you can give the name that you want, is up to you. So just to start, this is our main level. If you close this project and open again, you're going to see the same level as before. So the first thing that I'm going to be teaching you is how to change the main level of your game. So for that, let's go into project settings. Over here, I'm going to search for map, and you're going to see the add to start on map and the game default map. I'm going to be changing both because I'm not going to be creating a main menu right now. So let's just create main word and then main word like that. Now let's save this. Just one thing to consider. I have said before that if you're planning on using ray tracing, you should get that project. But if you're a complete beginner, I recommend not using from the start, at least in your first project. Try to learn a bit more about how Unreal Engine works before going to something that could be a lot more complicated and harder to understand and to make it work together. So now, as you can see over here, we don't have anything at all. The first thing that we're going to be doing next is to actually how to create your own landscape. So we have a lot of great tools, awesome tools in Unreal Engine to modify your landscape and create your map. You can think this as if you are the god of your own world. So this is the process of creation. Let's start this by deforming a little bit our landscape. Over here in our right, you're going to see that we have a few options. So by default, you're going to see this option to move. And as you can see, this is a 3D space. So basically that means that you can move it in 3 dimensions, as you can see over here, just like that. And if you make some modification that you don't want, you can also use Ctrl-Z to remove that modification, just like you do in docs, PowerPoint, or things like that. The next one is to select object. So this is for option selection. The next option is to rotate. So again, in 3 dimensions, you can rotate it like that, like this, and like this. The next thing is actually to increase. So this is actually the scale. So I can either select everything and increase this as a whole. So this is going to be increasing in the 3 dimensions, as you can see, like that, in the 3 dimensions. And if I go back, that would like what it would look like. And I can also increase this scale in only 1 dimension. That is done by just selecting it like this or like this. As you can see, I was not able to see, but in table 1, as you can see, it is increasing over there. And on the red one, as you can see as well. The next thing is that you can also change these values by going into these options over here. So let's say if I have this option selected, I can go into here and modify the scale. So right now it is at 10. Let's make something like 20. And as you can see, it's going to double. Let's do the same thing for the green one. Let's make it 20. And yeah, as you can see, it is the same size. So this is a little bit better if you want to get precision, but you can also modify in the game. It's going to be the same thing, only that here you can get a better precision. And the same goes for the location in the 3D space and the rotation as well. You have a few more options over here for this object, like the material, the static mesh, and things like that. And I'm not going to be explaining that right now because this is more about object creation and I'm going to be showing this later. But you have a few more options. By default, since I created this scene, it went already with our directional light, expositional heat fog, sky atmosphere, skylight, sky sphere, and volumetric cloud. And also put the player start. Let's start with our, actually let's go to the player start first. So basically this player start determines where you want your character to start the game. So let's say if I start to play this right now, click here to start the simulation, I would start where I placed that player start. That's basically it. If you are debugging something and you have a specific location where you want your player to start, you can also modify where you're going to start by just select over here to 3 points and then go into current camera location, just like that, and then hit play. And as you can see, I have started on my current camera location. And the next thing is, actually there are quite a few options. I am not going to further details because then I would lose time that I could spend elsewhere. But one thing that you should know about the directional light is that you can change the rotation of the directional light. So let's say, as you can see, this is approaching the middle of the day, I think. Let's just change that. So as you can see, I can change the position. So as you can see, with the directional light, you can change quite a lot how you want the scene to look. And if you're using ray tracing, you would know that these changes makes a lot of difference. Even here, without ray tracing enabled, is still a lot different. And again, you can go to the 3 dimensions just like before. And yet that would change a lot your scene. I'm going back into default. That should be it. And you can also create your own days. I think here in this channel there is already one video teaching how you can create your own days in your game, so that this would be changing while your player is playing the game, and will also be able to count when a day is over and starts again. But the next thing that I'm going to be doing is to deform this landscape. For that, let's quickly increase the scale a bit more. Let's just increase it to 25 and 25. Yeah, that should be it. I'm going back over here, and let's just select this a little bit down here. And here in our selector mode, I'm going to change into landscape. So now I have a few options to sculpt this landscape. So yeah, this can get quite a bit crazy when you are laning and trying to sculpt your landscape. But basically, what you should do by the start is that you first actually had a floor over there. I was not using landscape, so yeah, just make a small modification first. I think I'm going to be just selecting the floor, and I'm going to be removing it. Yeah, let's just leave the floor. Later I'm going to be removing that. But over here I can select the scale of my landscape. I think I'm not going to be making it that big. I think something like this should be enough for me. And then I'm going to hit create. Let's just save weight a bit. I am not using a default material, so this is going to be the default material of Unreal Engine. Yeah, so this is our landscape. And things can get a lot better here, because here I can sculpt things and change it. So first tool I have is the sculpt tool. I can increase the strength, I can increase the brush size, default, and take light of brush. So basically what this does is that I can do it like I would do in a piece of, let's say, sculpture or something like that. So I can sculpt our land. And just remember that this is the land that your player is walking through. So let's say you want to make quite a bit of hills for where your player to start. Let's say you want your player to start here. And there should be a few mountains around him and a small passage where he could go through. So let's create these mountains. Let's just create this. And you can increase the tool strength. That's basically the strength of the tool itself. By just selecting over here and increasing it to a higher number. Right now it is 0.3. Let's make it 0.5 and see what changes. So as you can see, it goes faster. You can also increase or decrease the size over here, just like that. Then let's go a little bit more. Another useful thing to know is that if you think your camera speed is just too slow, You can also increase the camera speeds by just select over here and increase the scale. The same things goes if you think your camera speed is just too fast. So in case like that, when I am creating in the whole picture of our game, a higher speed would fit a lot better. But let's say if I was making something small details on the land or things like that, a small speed would be better like that. But right now let's leave at 8. Let's go up over here and let's get back to what we're doing. So just like that, I have created the mountains for our start of our game. Let's just go a little bit more crazy. A few more things. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that when you're creating your landscape, you want to avoid these plain structures or things like that. Even in cities, that's not something pretty normal to have. So avoid it. You can deform it. You don't need to deform a lot. In this case, I'm going to just be making a small, quite a big modifications, and then I'm going back and fixing it. Something like that. Yeah, that should be good. Now I'm going to be selecting another tool. The next one is going to be, let me just teach you how to use the erase. So to erase, just like before, is going to erase the structures that I've created. I'm going back because I wanted that. And the next big one is the smooth tool. This is quite a great tool because as you can see right now, this is not looking like a normal mountain would look like. At least not usually. I think this will take quite a lot of erosion to be something like this. So let's just use this to make it a little bit smoother. As you can see, I think the strength was quite more than I wanted. So let me just go back a bit, like that. Let's decrease the strength by quite a bit, and let's go back. Yeah, that's more like I wanted. Now let's do the same thing into our entire world. Yeah, like that. And of course, you can go as crazy as you want over here. Like this. Yeah, I think that should be good. There are a few more tools where you can use to plane your terrain. You can use to create small passages and things like that. Actually, there are quite a lot of tools in the landscape. Since this is a beginner tutorial, I'm not going to deep about how to use every tool. Since that way I can cover more ground in other areas as well. So for this, with this knowledge, you are able to create your first landscape. Now let's just go over here, and then I think the player start, yeah, just go back into selection. Then I'm going to first thing, this floor over here, I was not able to select it before because I was not in selection mode, I was in landscape mode. I'm going to be deleting it because I have created a landscape, so just delete it like that. Now I'm going to select our player start, and I'm going to be placing it over there. That's where I was planning to start our game. So just like that. Another thing, you can also select the white ball to move it into 3 dimensions at the same time. This is possible as well. To be completely honest, I don't use this function. Never actually, I never use this function because I think this gets a lot more precision if I select 2 dimension but for a singular time. I think right now he should start by seeing this mountain. So let's say if I go into our default play start and I start the game, I start seeing this. I think it would be better if I start looking at the horizon, something like this. So I am going to be selecting this, our player start, and I'm going to select the rotation. As you can see right now, since I am dealing with the small details in our game, using this higher camera speed, it's quite messy, quite harder to control. So I'm going back a bit to maybe 3, yeah. And then I'm going to be changing the rotation by quite a bit, something like that, yeah. Let's test this out. Actually, just a bit our left. Let's see. Yeah, That's basically what I wanted to start with this scene over here. But there's quite a bit more that you have to create. But right now, as you can see, we're able to create your own landscape and you are able to create your first map. But you need to add a few things. We don't have anything yet, so let's start by create our game mode. So for that, I'm going to right click, and of course, if you don't know how to access your content drawer, just select it over here. As you can see, there are quite a few options here as well. The output log is just to see. I think for beginners, this is not something that you would be looking at, but this is something that you are going to when we're dealing with optimization and debugging. That's something that you could be concerned about. And error is going to be popping up over here as well. And I have also the prompt up commands, and this is commands that you are not able to access by default in the engine. Maybe if you are using a specific plugin, let's say if you are using that GitHub project to use ray tracing, then quite a lot of commands you need to place by using the console command. There are quite a lot more, but again, I don't have time to explain everything, so let's go into content drawer. Over here, let's just right click and I'm going to be selecting blueprint class. And the first thing that you need to create is the game mode base. That's basically the game mode of your game. So let's just create this. So this is going to be our gem underscore base. Now, first thing before I forget, let's go into our project settings. Let's just search for game mode. So as you can see, you have game mode based. I'm going to be selecting the new one that I've just created. By default, even if you create a blank project, you're still going to have a game mode base made by Unreal Engine by default. Because if you don't have it, would not be able to play that small game over there. So if I save this right now and I try to play, as you can see, yeah, it's going to be, actually I think it's going to be copying the same thing from before by default, yeah. So if I modify this and I get something really blank, I will not be able to move around. So the next thing that we need to do is to create our player controller. So let's do that now. First thing, this is the blueprint for Dream Base. I think I'm going to be create a folder that's going to be for our player, and I'm going to be inside this folder of our player. I'm going to be actually create another folder that's going to be for our blueprints. And then going back into content, as you can see over here, you are able to see the entire directory of folders. I'm going to just be selecting players, this arrow over here, and I can see our folders for blueprint. Then I'm going to be selecting this, just dragging around and placing inside this folder of blueprints and selecting moving it here. Yeah, just like that. Now over here, I'm going to be right clicking it and going to blueprint class, and I'm going to be selecting player controller. So this is, let's say, our controller underscore player, like that. Now in our base, I'm going to be selecting the player controller that I have just created. So that should be it. Now we need to create our character. For that, we actually don't have anything to create our character besides the default from Unreal Engine. And I don't actually want to use that because, yeah, you're going to have this you can use if you want. You're going to see this in the starter content of Unreal Engine. But let's try to make something different for your first project. That way I can teach you a little bit more about Unreal Engine. So for that, before creating our character, let's actually go to Epic Games. And if you have not made any modification when you have to how Unreal Engine works in your computer, the first time you open Unreal Engine, it's going to close Epic Games by default. Just search in the search bar for Epic Games and then open this again. Then let's go into Marketplace. Now, what is the Marketplace of Unreal Engine? So this is, at the same time, it is a great gem for Unreal Engine. It's where you can make a lot of work very quickly by just getting a lot of assets. It's also where many people end up losing the track of their own project. So yeah, basically what is the marketplace? Marketplace is a place where you can either download or share assets. So let's say you have created a specific asset for inventory system or thing like or something like that, and you think that could be useful for other people creating their own projects. You can go into Unreal Engine marketplace and you could place this to sell. So just like you would sell a game, you could sell assets as well. So as you can see over here, I have quite a few of assets displaying for me. And let's say if I like this robot over here that was created by other people, and I can just buy this and use this on my project. That would be completely usable for commercial projects and so on. And one thing that you need to keep in mind is that every month there is 5 great assets that is made free by Epic Games. So let's say this month these are the assets, and you have the entire month to get these assets. Please don't forget to check every month to see to go come over here and just add these assets. It's completely free. These 5 first assets. There are also a lot of other free assets, and here in the steps I can search what I want. I think I'm going to just go into free content and then Epic Games content, just show a bit. So as you can see, there are quite a lot of free assets. These are not just assets to learn how to use Unreal Engine, but they are assets that you can integrate this in your game and make better games basically. So let's say this Lyra starter game is a template framework to make games, shooter games, and other types of game as well. But let's say things like that, not only to learn how to create things, but things that you can integrate in your game to make it not only make things quicker, but to make things better. But at the same time, don't just keep grabbing a lot of assets that doesn't have anything to do with your game just because you think they are cool. Because if you don't follow a strict line, in the end you're going to have a lot of assets that don't work quite well together. And please remember, even though they are great assets, I think there are not really that many parameters to see who have created this asset and if it doesn't have any bug or anything like that. But basically, that's basically it. Please come into here, see what are the free assets, browse to Trios content. There are not only Epic Games free assets over here. It can also go into, let's say, this permanently free collection. They are not from Unreal Engine. Most are not from Unreal Engine, but you can see great assets that are made free forever, and some of these can be quite useful. Let's say for the last Megascans, I have used this one. It was quite great. I like it a lot, and was quite useful because we didn't have quite a lot of time. It was only 1 week and to make an entire game, so this helped me a lot. To create our character, I have searched a bit, and I think the best for us is to actually go into Paragon. Let's just search for Paragon. There are quite a great characters here in Paragon. I think the one that I'm going to be selecting is, yeah, I think it is this Paragon Calari because I look ahead of time and I think this one is quite good. And yeah, I just think this looks good. I have not used this in any project, so I don't know how it looks. So now you're going to have the experience of discovering how you would look this as you add this to your own game and things like that. I have this added to my library. For you, if you don't have that, should be looking something like this. So just get this option to add it for free, and then go back into here. Let's go back, and then you're going to have this option to add to your project. So let's just do that. Add to project. Here you can select the project that you want to add this. I am going to be selecting our starter. Actually, how was the name of it? Yeah, first project. As you can see, I think this was not made for 5.3, but yeah, actually there is just not showing any image by the start, but let's just make it there. So it's going to download this asset. As I said, I have not used this before, so it's going to download and add to our project. I'm going to make a small cut because there's no reason for it to wait here with me. So let's just make a small cut and I come back once this has finished downloading it. I'm back, and here in the engine now I have the Paragon Kalari. As I said before, I have not checked this content before because I want to look it with you so that you can see how I'll do that. First thing, I'm going to our maps because I think there's going to be more than one option and I want to see how what would be the best. I'm going to just be saving it. And let's see, wait a bit. So the first time that we're going to be opening this map should be taking a little bit more of time because you're going to be compiling the shaders, the new shaders. So as you can see, there's a bit of lag, but that's completely normal. Should be taking a bit of time. I'm going to just be waiting a bit. So I think, yeah, I'm going to use the black one. There is the red one as well. Basically, they have the same skeleton. The only thing that's going to be changing is the appearance. I think they have, at least I think they have the same skeleton. But the base of Paragon is to have the same skeleton for them, so it should be. This one looks good as well. This one has the key, but I'm not sure about that one. I don't know if this cape is reacting to physics. Yeah, I think I'm going to be using this one because I like it, the cape. And if it's not reacting to physics, then I might change it to other. Yeah, but I think I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to right click it and browse to asset. So this is the one I'm going to be using. For that, actually first, let's go into our content folder and then player and blueprints. Over here, I'm going to right click and then go into blueprint class. Then I'm going to select a character. This one is going to be our BP underscore, let's say player. Open this up, and over here I am going to be adding that mesh. So let's go back into our Kalari, browse to asset, and then I'm going to be seeing this. Let's go back into our player. You can either, so here, this is a blueprint for the player character that's going to be your player, basically the player that your player is going to be using. I have a few things over here. The first thing is the capstone component that's going to be detecting collision. You can also add collision to the mesh. It's up to you what you're going to be using, what you want to be using, and you can also add more components over here if you want. So if you want to add specific collision, if you want to detect something it's very specific, you can add over there as well. But for now, I'm going to only be changing the mesh. So here in our components, selecting the mesh, I'm going to be able to see the details of our mesh. And then I have skeletal mesh asset. So I'm going to be selecting that one. There are two ways to do that. The first one is to actually go into here and search the one that I want. But there's a shortcut for that. That's basically, let's go into our component drawer, and then I'm going to just be selecting like that. And then going back here, and I'm going to be selecting this arrow to place our selected asset. Like that. Now I can see the asset that I have just created, that I have just got from that package, and then I'm going to just be moving it a little bit down to fit with our capsule component. And as you can see, the error is not matching our rotation from our mesh, so I'm going to just here, I'm going to select the rotation. Just like we have done in our world, I am able to change the rotation and positions here as well. So here I'm going to be changing the position, the rotation to match the error, yeah, just like that. And I think I'm going to be increasing the capsule component. I actually know, I think that should be, yeah, I think that should be good for now at least. Let's compile it, save it. Now here I have the event grab, but first actually, let's go into class default. Then I'm going to be selecting controller. Now it is the eye controller. I'm going to be changing to our controller underscore player. This one over here. Now just save. Let's go back into our game mode, and I'm going to be changing our default pen class to our BP underscore player. And yeah, that should be it. Player controller class, I'm going to be changing it to controller player. And let's see, yeah, that should be it. I think I have changed it already in our project settings. Let me see. Yeah, I have. There's a player controller here. Yeah, there is the same definitions as before. So now we can close our project settings, and let's actually go back into our main map. So over here, content, main word, save selected. So over here, if I start the game, I should start with that character, but I don't have a camera, so I'm not able to see it. For that, and if you start this, you can also notice that now you are not able to move as well. That's completely normal. That's only because we have created the controller player, the new controller, the new game mode, but we have not added anything. So now what I'm going to be doing is to teach you how this works. So basically, we have our game mode. Here is where you can place definitions for the game mode itself. Usually not going to be making that much modifications here, but then you can also add the player controller, and you can also add the character. So these three blueprints are going to work together. The modifications that I'm going to be doing now is to our player character, so that I'm able to see the character itself. For that, here in our components, I am going to add a new one. That's going to be a spring arm. And then I'm going to add a new one. That's going to be a camera. And I'm going to be adding it to our spring arm. By default, it should be like that. If it is not, let's say if it's something like this, just drag the camera into our spring arm. Then back into viewport, I want this to match our player. So the first thing is to change the rotation. Actually, let's do that with the spring arm. Yeah, it is right. The spring arm is right. It's on the camera that's not. Let's just change the rotation. Yeah, now should be good. I'm not sure how. Let's see how this looks in the game. It's not what I want, but just to show you how this would look. So now you can see the character. You are still not able to move around and do anything, but you still can see the character. Usually, I think I'm going to be using this as a third-person game. So I want to see the player a little bit with the camera a little bit inclined from up there, so that I could get a better view. For that, I'm going to select our spring arm, and I'm going to just be changing the rotation to pitch, but let's say 30 degrees, and let's see how this looks like. Let's go back, and now this is what I see. I think I'm going back with our camera just a bit, so just moving it a bit further there. Of course, you can adjust this as much as you want to make it perfect, the way that you want this to be in your game. I am not going to spend too much time with this because, yeah, it's not the main reason why I'm doing this. So I have the view of a third person. Now I need to be able to move our character and give commands to our character. So there are multiple ways to do that. There are a few modifications to Unreal Engine version 5. I think it is from version 5.1 and forwards. That is the new input actions, and that's what I'm going to be using here. Let me see. So yeah, I think that should be it. There is one more thing that I need to show you. Let's go into our mesh. So there's one more thing that you need to know. There are more things for the mesh besides the mesh itself. That is the skeleton. So this is the skeleton without the bones that were used. As I said before, I think they have the same, all the meshes that has in this Paragon assets, they have the same skeleton. That's basically how everything is structured to move and things like that. And you can add the components here as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to be adding any in this tutorial, but let's see. If there's still time, I may be adding a weapon or something like that. But now I want to deal with movement. If we have started with the starter content of Unreal Engine, we're going to have that by default, but I think it's better for you to create first so that you know how this works. So let's go into our content folder, and here I'm going to right click. Actually, that's going to side player, and I'm going to create a new folder that's going to be for controls. Actually, let's name something. I think I'm going to be using something a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to only name as control. I think that should be good, just to define what this is. And yeah, I think I'm going to be separating it. So I'm going to be creating another folder that's going to be for input actions, and I'm going to right click, and now I am going into input, and I'm going to be selecting input mapping context. So this is going to be our let's say player roller. And now let's open this up. First thing, we need to add mapping actions to our mapping context. But for that, we need to create them first. So let's go into our control, input actions, and then here right click. Then let's go into input and select input action. This, I think I'm going to just be calling it input underscore, let's say for the first one is going to be for move. And let's create another one that's going to be for input underscore look. Now let's open this up. This, by default, the value is going to be a bool. I'm not going to be using this, so I'm going to be using axis 2D, so vector 2D. Just change it, save it. Let's do the same thing for look. So change it to x2D, and that should be it. Close it, and let's go. So now in our MC player context, I'm going to be adding the mappings. But the first one is for move. Yeah, starting with move. And the next one is going to be for look. So let's expand this because I'm going to have to make a few modifications. So basically here I can use any key that I want for movement. But let's say for the input of movement, there's going to be actually 4. So it's going to be able to move forward, move back, and move to our left and to our right. So it's going to be 4. For that, here in this add button, and please remember, it's not this one, it's this one inside this input. I'm going to be adding 4, actually just more 3. And the first one, it is for move forward, and then to move to our left, actually move backwards, and then to our left, and then to our right, just like that. And then here I'm going to be adding modifiers. So basically right now this input is going to be doing the same thing, but if I add modifiers to this, then the value is going to change based on that. So basically I'm going to be using the same input, but the modifier is going to change the value, and for that I'm going to be changing the movement as well. So let's add, the first one is going to be for a Swizzly, which axis, and the next one I'm going to also be adding modifier. This time is going to be a Swizzly as well, but I'm going to be adding one more that's going to be for negate. And the next one that's going to be for our left, I am going to be adding a negate only. And for the last one, there's no need to add any modifier, just leave it like that and save. So I'm going to be doing the same thing for input look, but this time I'm going to be selecting the input. I'm going to just be searching here for mouse, X and D, and 2D axis, this one over here. Then I am going to be expanding this, and I'm going to be adding modifier as well. That's going to be a negate. Now save, and that should be it for now. Just close it, and close it. Now let's go into our BP player, and here what I need to do now is to start the mapping context that I've just created. So in the event begin play, if you don't know, the event begin play is basically where, let's say, when this starts, this is what should happen, and it's going to happen only once. So that's basically it. There are all sorts of events that you can place, but this is the most basic one that we're going to be dealing with. I think the next one would be the event tick. This should be playing for every tick in the game and costs a lot of performance and things like that. But for the first one, in the event begin play, the first thing that I need to do is to get our controller, and then I am going to be casting into this controller over here. So from this, I'm going to cast to controller underscore player. So basically what I'm doing is I'm casting toward this blueprint over here, and to do that I need to get a reference for it. So this is the reference, and then from this I am going to get our input local. So yeah, it should be this get enhanced input local player subsystem, and from this first thing I need to see if this is valid. So I'm going to just get a is valid statement. The second one, and basically what this is going to do is to just check if this If this enhanced input local player subsystem is valid. If it is not, it's not going forward, it's not going to add this mapping context. But if it is true, then I'm going to be adding the mapping context. So just from this pinpoint over here, I'm going to just get add mapping context and place it over here, just like that. And the mapping context that we have just created. Now compile it, save it. So just so that you understand what I have made. Basically, I have this input actions that should be what when your player press this in the game, I should be receiving this. And this is implemented inside a mapping context that's going to be the combination of all the input actions that we're going to be using. And then I'm going to be adding this mapping context into our player character. So now he knows what mapping context to use. That's basically it. So now I'm going to just be deleting this because I am not going to be using. If it is your first time into Unreal Engine, there are going to be a few blueprints here by default. They are just want to show you a few options. They are not going to be using by default. But I don't just think that if I'm not going to be using it, they are not visual pleasing for me. So I'm going to just be deleting it like that. And now I am receiving those values, but I still need to do something. So let's say right now they are passing through, but I'm not doing anything with the event. So even if I go back to our game, nothing is going to happen. Still, as you can see, I'm not able to move. So I'm going to be doing that now. First, let's get our input underscore look. So actually not that one, sorry. Yeah, input underscore look. I'm going to be adding the event. So it should be this one over here. As you can see, I have quite a bit of options. I am going to get from our trigger, and I'm going to just be getting add the controller input, and I'm going to be getting one more from this. So that's going to be add the controller pinch input like that. So now I'm able to get two values from this. It is going to be only one right now. So as you can see, I have this action value. It is a 2D vector as I have selected over here. So this is the type of value that I get. But as you can see, I have two. So basically what I'm going to be doing is to split this struct spin. So now as you can see, I have the axis and the yaw. So I'm going to be selecting the axis first and then this as second. So that should work fine. Now I should be able to look around. So basically what I did is that once this event is triggered, I'm going to be adding this axis value into our control yaw input and this value into our pinch input. Now compile it, save it, and let's give it a look in our game. So as you can see, I'm able to move out, to look around, and it's not following the right position. So I think I'm going to be making a small modification. So let's go into our input underscore look, active in our player context, and I think I'm going to be removing that negate. Just save it, and let's see. Now it should be right. So now we're able to see the reason. Sorry, I thought that should require a negate, but seems there's no need for that anymore. So, and as you can see, the cape has physics enabled, so that should look quite well. Now let's go into our BP player. So there is one more important feature that you must know in Unreal Engine, that is the ability to place comments. So let's say right now I have these two events, and I don't want to confuse it. And let's say if I go further away, I want to still be able to locate what these specific events. Of course, I can locate them by going to our event graph. So like here, I can locate these events. So let's say if I go into our event begin play, I would go back into this one. But still, for organization purposes, it's always good to use comments inside your code. So for that, I'm going to just select everything, drag and drop, and I'm going to be pressing the letter C. Now, as you can see, I'm able to place comments, and I think just like this, I think this one, I'm going to just name it begin play, and drag this to our left, and there's another option that is to show bubble when zoomed. So I'm going to make it as true, so now I'm able to see even when it is further away. The same thing over here. So this is our event input look. So just get put look show bubble like that. And now I want to be able to move around. So for that, I'm going to get our, I think it is input underscore move. Yeah. So get this event over here. This one is a little bit more complicated, but let's go slower and yeah, let's go a little bit slower and we're going to be able to figure this out. First thing, as before, I'm going to be splitting this through spin, and I'm going to be adding from our trigger event, I'm going to be adding movement input like that. And actually it's going to be two of those, and as you can see I have placed quite a bit of distance because I'm going to have to make a few modifications for these values to work. So I'm going to be just copying this and add another one, again a little bit of space there like that. And the first thing that I'm going to be doing is to get control rotation, and then from this, as you can see, I have this rotator. I'm going to be splitting this stroke spin as well, and I'm going to just drag this and get right vector. Actually, let's just get right vector over here. Yeah, this one. Now let's break this stroke spin, and I'm going to place the first and the last value. I am not going to be using the pinch one, just this one. And then I am going to get a vector from this, and this vector is going to be the y direction. So just place it over here, and the value I am going to be placing, the first one for is going to be from the axis. So just place into our scale. And I have used it here, but I have not said about this. To organize this node, you can double click it, and then you can move it around to make it easier to see what we have done. Yeah, that's quite useful. And the next one is going to be for the other movement, but this one's going to be a little bit different. Sorry about that. And for the next one, I'm going to also get control rotation, and then I'm going to be splitting this stroke spin, just like to this to our right, and I'm going to get forward vector, and then split this stroke spin, and please be careful, this is the forward vector and this is the right vector. Just keep that in mind. And then over here, and then the last value into here. Then I get this vector value into our y direction and the scale from our second value. Like that. Let's organize this a bit. Just a bit. Yeah, that should be good. Align this. Yeah. So this is our input move, and then show bubble. If you have placed this inside a comment, you're going to notice that you can just select the comment and move everything that is inside around. That is very good for organization purposes. Just place it like that, compile it, save it. Now let's go into our game, and as you can see, I'm able to move. Of course, you may be thinking that he's going to be animated by default, but no. If you're starting your journey on creative games, you're going to notice that many things that you think you actually don't think that would be required on creating games is actually required. So everything that you do, everything that you see in a game needs to be created. Of course, Unreal Engine creates awesome tools to make this process a little bit easier, but we still need to create it. So let's say right now I am moving my character, but I still need to add these animations. So for that, let's first save everything. Then I'm going to be creating an animation blueprint. So for that, I'm going to go into blueprints. I'm going to right click and I'm going to be selecting, I think it is in animation actually. Yeah. So over here, I'm going to be selecting animation blueprint. I'm going to be following the Calary skeleton. Please keep this in mind. If you are using other asset, you should be selecting the skeleton that you are using. In this case, as I said, the Paragon used by default the same skeleton for all the meshes. So this should be the Calary from the Paragon skeleton. Just hit create. This is going to be our name underscore, let's say default. No, let's say, I'll just name it blueprint. Let's no need for change it. Actually, no, I'm going to rename this. Let's say for player. Like that. Now let's go into our player, and I'm going to be here in class defaults. I'm going to search for a name. So right now it's using none. So I'm going to be select that one that we have just created. Just select it and place it here. Now we have animation blueprint selected, but still needs to add animations. So now that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be adding the logic for that. It is a little bit different than the normal blueprint, like this blueprint from our character, but it's still not that much different. Here I have this node for the output pulse. I think for you it's not going to be showing this message over here, but don't worry, that's just because I have placed the node and I have deleted it. But then here I'm going to right click and I'm going to be selecting a state. Let's go up here and then I'm going to select a state machine. So this state machine is going to be our basic, let's say our base animation. Let's just name it base. So this is our base for our state machine. Now I'm going to be placing this pinpoint into our output pulse and hit compile. So as you can see, this is connected, but nothing is being given as entry. So it should be playing animation, but I have nothing inside of here. So let's go into here, and as you can see, this is getting to this node, but it's not doing anything. So let's right click, and I'm going to be adding a state. This is the first state. What do you think should be? Let's wait a bit, give me the best reply you have for this, and of course, it is the idle state. So let's just add idle. Then from this pinpoint, I'm going to place into idle. Let's compile it again, and as you can see, it is working right now, but I don't have any animation. So let's open this up, and over here, I'm going to be searching into actually here in our anim preview, I'm going to search for asset browser, and I'm able to see a few animations from here. I think I'm going to be looking for walk, and these animations came with the Paragon asset. If you are curating, let's say, if you have different assets, you need to see those that are available with your own skeleton, and of course, you are going to have to create new animations once you have started to make serious games. Then you're going to have to create new animations and things like that. But for now, I'm going to be using the default ones that came with the Paragon asset. So we have the backward animation, forward, and left and right. So we have 4 types of animation only for walking, and I am not sure if I have time to cover details about blend space and things like that to make your movement look better. So right now I'm going to be sticking it only with forward, and if there is time I'm going to be going back and make with the 4. So right now I just get the forward one, and this is a sequence player. I'm going to place this as this is for walk. I'm creating idle. So let's just get idle. There are quite a few. There's two idle. Let's see what is the default one. I'm going to be opening this up so that I'm able to see. There are a few transitions for idle, I think. Yeah, there are quite a few transitions. Sorry. I was not searching for idle. Should be some by default. Yeah, this one is by default. I'm going to be adding that one. So let's just get this one over here. Just drag this. Place this sequence player as our output result, compile it, save it, and as you can see, right now have our character in the idle pose. If I go back in our game, as you can see, he is in idle, but he's not doing anything else. So now we need to modify that as well. So let's go into our anim player. The next one I'm going to be creating here is for walking. So let's create a new state. This state I'm going to just be calling walk. And this one is going to be a little bit different. The main difference is that I need to transition between idle into walk, and then from walk back into idle. So I'm going to get one of those arrows placed into walk, and I need to drag one from walk back into idle as well. Why I'm doing that? That's mainly because I want to be able to go from idle into walk, and then if our player stops moving, he should go back into idle. And then, as you can see, with this arrow selected, I'm going to just double click it and see this. Basically, this is the condition to transition between idle into walking. For that, I am going to into our left, and I'm going to be creating a new variable that's going to be speed. This variable right now by default it is boolean. I'm going to be changing it to float, and I'm going to place it over here. Let's just compile, and basically what I'm going to be doing is to see if this is greater than 0. If his speed is greater than 0, then he should be walking, and then it's going to transition to the next animation. And the same thing if, let's say, this is to go back into idle. So let's say if his speed is less or equal to 0, then he should go back into idle, just like that. Now let's add our walk animation. Let's just search for it. I'm going to just be getting our walk forward and place it over here. Compile it, save it. Now let's go into our world, and as you can see, it is not working. That's mainly because even though I have created this variable, we still need to update this speed. For that, in our animation blueprint, I'm going to event wrap, and then over here I get these blueprints by default. I'm going to, from our try get palm owner, I'm going to get velocity, and then I'm going to be getting a vector, but I want to set our speed. For that, I'm going to just be dragging the speed here and set speed, just like that. But this vector can't be placed inside this float value, so I'm going to just get the vector length, like that. This function just convert this to a float and then place the result into our speed. And then on the event update animation, I'm going to be updating the speed. Now compile it, save it, and yeah, let's just align this a bit, yeah, like that. Now let's go back into our world and let's test this out. So now as you can see, he is walking, but he stops moving. The main reason for that is that the animation is not looping. So let's go back into our animate grab and let's go into our walk. So this walk, I am going to go down here into the details of this animation, and I'm going to be setting it to loop. The same thing I'm going to be doing for idle. So I'm going to select this sequence and I'm going to select it to loop. Save everything. Now let's go back, and as you can see, he is walking. So I think his walk animation, he should be an assassin. So this is how he walks. It's not quite like what I was expecting, but it seems that he is his walk animation. Actually did not like that walk animation from our character, so I think I'm going to be changing that. So here we have another animation that should be for running, and actually I think it is only run forward, this one over here. And even though I wanted to use walk, since his walk animation is not quite what I was expecting, I think I'm going to be changing for this animation over here. So let's go into our anime player and then go into walk, and I'm going to be changing it to our run animation. Run forward, just like that, place it over here, and then make it to loop. Compile it, save it, and let's see. Yeah, now it's a little bit more closer to what I wanted. I think I'm going to be fixing his rotation as well. So there is a problem with the rotation right now. I'm not able to go up and down, so I'm going to be fixing that. I think the main reason for that is just that he's not getting his add controller pins input is working, but he's not passing his input through the spring arm. So I'm going to be doing that. Please remember that I'm using the spring arm, not the camera. So here with our spring arm selected, I am going to get a rotation, and then I'm going to use palm controller rotation, just like that. Compile it, save it, and let's see. Yeah, but I think I removed the negate, and I'm not sure why I haven't removed the negate. So let's go into our MEL player controller. Let's go into our input look. So here it should have one modifier that should be negate. That's the same one that I have removed earlier. But there we're going to make a modification to our modifier. So now here expand this index, and then I'm going to be removing the first and the second. Just leave it the middle one, save it, and now should be good. Yeah, now it's working fine. So we're able to run and actually this is walk animation and stand idle, and yeah, that's basically it. Now there are quite a few more tools that I want to show you in this video. The next one is a quite a famous one, that is Quixel Bridge. So if you don't know, in Unreal Engine there are besides the marketplace there are other tools that you can use to import assets. One, I think the most famous one is Quixel Bridge. So to get to Quixel Bridge, you go to Tools, and then here in this tab, you should see, actually I think it is Window, yeah, over here in the Windows tab, I'm going to select Quixel Bridge. Then let's open this up. If this is your first time opening Quixel Bridge, you should be needing to log in. I am already with my account over here, but if you don't have an account in Quixel Bridge, you're going to have to create an account, but it's pretty easy process. Just register using your Epic account or a new account, that's up to you. And then once you have registered, you are able to see this platform over here. So I'm going to be using this to get a few assets for our landscape. The first one is going to be actually a texture that I'm going to be importing to the landscape. So because right now it is only the base texture and I don't want to be using this texture. So I'm going to be changing that. I'm not sure which one I'm going to be using. So let's take a look. I think I'm going to go into collections. And then here, let's see what would be the best one for this. So I'm thinking about something closer to a jungle, or yeah, something like this maybe. This looks quite good. Let me take a look. Yeah, this one looks quite good. I'm not sure if this one is going to work out for me. So let's take a look a bit more. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the one. So I actually went a little bit ahead of time and took a look about some of the textures that I think might work for this. But I wanted to show you this process as well. So this moss ground I think is going to look great. So I think I'm going to be using this one. So once we have selected the one that you want to place for your grounds, for the texture for your landscape, you just select it, and then here we're able to select the quality that you want to import. Please remember that this is very important because this is going to affect how big your project is going to be. I think right now I'm going to select high quality and I'm going to press download. It's going to take a bit. In the middle, I think in the middle way, I'm going to be getting a few more textures. The next one is going to be for foliage. So yeah, let's take a look a bit more. Actually, I think I'm going to be, yeah, just go to environment. Here, I should be able to get a bit more. Yeah, I have found a bit earlier, I found a great foliage pack. So I think I'm going to go into act a local and let me just take a look. Yeah, I think it was this one. I have searched this one before and I think it's quite good. So the same process, just search for this one and then select the quality that you want to be using. In my case, I'm using high quality. Right now, I have already downloaded this asset, so I'm going to just be clicking add, and this is going to be added to my project. And the same thing is going to be to the other moss ground that I'm downloading. I made a small cut just because I had to wait for this asset to finish downloading it. Now I have this moss ground. Before I have downloaded another one, but I think this one might be better. So I'm going to be using this one. So just like I have done with the foliage, I'm going to just be clicking add, and this is going to be added to our project. Now with the asset imported to our world, the first thing that we need to do is to get the landscape material back to our landscape. So since I have already created this landscape, I am going to be selecting it over here. So just select our landscape. Then let's go into our content drawer, and then you should see it into surfaces. And remember, that's going to be from content, Megascans, and then surfaces, and then open this folder, and you should see this material instance over here. So I think this is quite a good one. So I'm going to be using that into our landscape. So just select it and place it. Should have an option over here, landscape material. This is going to be this green one. So as you can see, this is the material for our landscape, but still need the foliage. So for that, I'm going to be teaching you about another awesome tool in Unreal Engine. That is this tool over here, that is the foliage. So just go to selection mode and then select foliage. Just like that. And by default there are quite a few here already, but if there is not any foliage over here, don't worry. Just go to content drawer, then go back into Megascans and then 3D planes. And remember, this was the other Quixel Bridge that you have just downloaded besides the surface. So just go into this folder and open it up. You should see this foliage folder as well. So just select everything over here and just drag and place over there if there is not appearing for you. But for me, it is already appear over here, so I'm going to just be selecting it. There are quite a few options. By default, you're going to be having Spain selected, so that's what you want. Now, to activate paint, we need to select what the first foliage that we want to be using. So let's select the first one by just clicking over here and then going back into our world. So as you can see, I'm able to place it in our world, just like that. But let's say I want to make things quite faster, more dynamic and things like that. You can also adjust this tool as well. The first thing is the size of your brush size. So by selecting over here, you can also increase that size. Just increase it a bit. Maybe something like that. Should be almost double the size, just like that. So with that, you are able to cover more ground. So let's say if I want the foliage to cover everything over here, I could just increase it quite a bit, then click one time, and as you can see, it's quite fast. It's quite quick to make the modifications into this world. The next one is the paint density. So let's say right now it is 0.5, but I want to increase the density of these plants. Let's say I want to make it 0.8. Let me show what would happen. Just here on the side, I'm going to select, and as you can see, the density increases. Of course, it's not quite a huge difference. Let's go to 1, so that's going to be easier to see. So as you can see, the density increases just by selecting like that. But let's say I want to be using multiple ones at the same time. That's also possible. You don't need to be selecting only one to paint your foliage and then going to the next one. You can right now have only this one selected, but I can, let's say I want to select this other one as well. First thing, I'm going to be decreasing the density because I don't want that much. Let's go back to 0.5 and the brush size as well. So it's quite small again. And let's say I want to use these two foliage at the same time. As you can see, they are mixed together. But I can also increase as much as you want. So let's say right now I have 5 selected at the same time, and I can place them all together. There are some parts that are not for foliage, and the Unreal Engine deals with that part by default. In this part, I think I'm going to be placing something like a rock. Yeah, that would be good. But let's paint this a little bit, and then I go to that. So let's just paint it. I think I'm going to be selecting everything from here. And of course, you're able to see how many of these assets there are in the world. So let's say this one that I have just selected, I have 0. But this first one, as you can see, I have quite a few of them. So yeah, let's start placing it. Something like that. Yeah. Of course, please keep in mind that this is going to draw back on your GPU processing power. So right now the density is quite big. So yeah, I think that's closer to what I want for this start at least. And this part, there's no need to make it so dense. So let's go into 0.1 and start placing. Actually, that's just too small. 0.2. Yeah, that's more like it. Just to create the starter of our map. Yeah, I think that looks actually great. I think I'm going to only be decreasing this part over here. So I'm going back into landscape, and I'm going to be smoothing this part like that. Then I'm going back into Foliage and I'm going to be placing it back over here. Yeah, I think I'm going to need to decrease it a bit more. So let's actually, I don't want to flatten this, let's smooth a little bit more. But at least make it more real. Yeah, I think that's great. I'm going to be placing something over here to make it better. So now you know how to make these things. So basically you can change between landscape into foliage and make this modification as much as you want. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to actually, I think I'm going to be creating an asset for this. I'm not sorry. Let's go into our assets, edit in window, and let's go into Pixel Bridge. I think I want to place more assets and want to teach you how you can create actors for your world. So there are multiple ways to place assets in the world. The first one is to just drag into static mesh, but I want to teach you how to create your own assets, your own blueprints that may have some specific logic and may even make your player to be able to interact with each other, with each of them. So for that, I am going into collections. Over here, let's see. I think I was thinking about using something like a Greek, from the Greek mythology, or maybe just something ancient, or yeah, I'm not sorry. I think I'm going to just be searching for a Greek over here and see what I get. Yeah, I don't think there is any with that name, but I saw something before. Let me just take a look if I see I can find it again. Yeah, let's take a look at this one. Yeah, that's not quite what I want, but yeah, that would be quite well as well, but it's not what I want. So let's go into historic and maybe here, yeah, Homer and Power, that would be good as well. Let's see if I have what I want. Then just 1 second. This one looks quite good, but it's not quite what I wanted. Maybe, yeah, not that one. Yeah, it was something like this ones. These statues was what I wanted, placing the word. So I think I'm going to be getting this. Yeah, I'm going to be getting this. So again, just select the one that you want. I think in my case, I'm going to be getting this statue over here. Select the quality that you want to be using. I think I'm going to be going into the night for this one, then download. Wait a bit. I think I'm going to be selecting a few more. So I have a status, I think maybe this, yeah. So, of course, I'm not the best archaeologist or how to make it look as would be the real world, but I'm going to try that. So let's get this one as well. I'm going to be getting it as a nanite as well, and just download. Wait a bit. And let's see if I'm going to be select anymore. I think I want something now for something medieval. Let me take a look. Maybe castle runs. Let's see. Mix a few things together and see how it looks in the end. I think my internet connection is not of the best right now. Yeah, this one looks quite great. Quite great. Maybe using this would also be good. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be using this one as well. So just hit download. And yeah, I think that should be it. I'm going to just be waiting it to download everything, and once it has finished, I'm going back into here and to show you how to place this in our world. So I'm back and I have finished downloading these 3 assets. So now again, I just need to add this to our project. So I'm going to just be clicking add, and then it's going to be added, and the next one, this one, and then this one. Like that. Yeah, that should be it. Now I can close, just hit save all. Now let's just take a look into assets that have just imported. So Megascan, so I think it's going to be these 3D assets. So as you can see, there are 3 of them. The first one, as you can see, we have this static mesh. I think it should be our chapel pillar. Let's take a look. Of course, the first time we're going to be opening this file, it's going to take a little bit longer, Since some of this is nanite, it's going to take even longer. That's completely normal. First time opening almost everything with higher testers is going to take a little bit more of time. That's normal, so yeah. Now, as you can see, this is the static mesh. As I said before, this is the basic one that you can place in the word, but there I can also create an object with this. I think I'm going to be showing that with this yeah, I think I'm going to be using that. But this one I'm going to just be dragging this static mesh and place into our word. So for that I have this word right here. I am going to just be getting this, yeah, sorry, I think it should be chapel, this one over here. So I'm going to be just be dragging this, and as you can see, it's quite small. It's actually not small. It's just that the word that I'm using right now is actually quite big. So right now I'm going back into selection mode. Please remember that you're not going to be able to select this if you don't go back into selection mode. So just like that. Now, as you can see, I'm able to move it around, and that's basically it. I think I'm going to be placing one over there. Yeah, I think I'm going to be doing that. So just move it into here. I'm going to be also increase the size of this. So again, to increase the size, just select and scale objects just like that. And I'm going to be increase the scale on the 3 axes at the same time, just like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty good. Rotate a bit more. Now let's place it down a bit. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted. Something like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's take a look into other assets. I think the next one should be, yeah, this maybe sector. Yeah, I was thinking it would be 2, but yeah, there's no problem. Maybe let's just take a look at the other one first. So the other one is going to be only this one. So I think I'm going to be creating an object from this one, but this one I'm not sure how I'm going to be using this. Let's take a look how this would look in the word. So again, just go into the static mesh and drag this to our word. Let's scale quite a bit more, something like this. Should be good. So yeah, I don't think this look too good together. Maybe if I just instead get another of this, just get another one over here, then rotate to face the other side, and please remember these static meshes, they are only one side, so you need to make it to rotate to the side that your player is going to be looking at. So yeah, I think I'm going to be using like this maybe. Let's go back into landscape mode, and I'm going to be selecting our smooth tool, this one over here, and I'm going to just be moving this a bit more like that. So now let's see. Yeah, I think that's basically what I wanted. Let's take a look how would be the start of our game. So yeah, I need to make it a little bit down over there. So again, go back into selection mode, select this, a little bit down there. Let's take a look again. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It is a lot better. So yeah, that's basically, yeah, this one, it needs to be a little bit down as well. So again, same thing. Let's see. Maybe if I could create 2 sides of this. No, yeah, I don't think this one is going to look apart with this. So sorry for asking you to download this. I was thinking about building something, but now that I have seen the word, I think this one is going to look a little bit better. But so I'm not going to be using this. So just hit delete over here. Yeah, that should be pretty much it. So that's basically it with most of the static mesh that you are able to place in the word. That way you can place objects, use the foliage, create the landscape, and so on. In order to make you not lose that much time watching me organize these things, I went ahead, make just a few small adjustments to make it look a little bit more immersive, but it's basically the same thing. You just rotate, move it around until it fits the right place for you. And I have also increased the location for the player controller. Let's just make a little bit down there. Yeah, that should be it. The next thing I want to do is to show how you can create actors to place in your world. So for that, I'm going to be using this asset over here. So first thing, I'm going to be closing every tab that I have here because I'm not going to be using any of those right now. To do that, you can just go to any tab and you can either select close all other tabs or only the tabs to the right. This is a very useful command showing we have a lot of tabs and we don't want to be closing one after the other. So I'm going to just be selecting close tabs to the right, like that. And now I am back into our content drawer and I'm going to search for our player, blueprint, pp player. And yeah, actually first, let's go into content. I think I'm going to be creating an object. So let's just go right click and then go to blueprint class. As you can see, there are different types of blueprints that you can create in your game. There are even more if we expand this, but I'm going to be creating a simple actor. I think that's what most of these blueprints that we're going to have in your world is going to be of the type actor, because they are a very simple and common one. So let's say this is BP. Let's say this actor should increase the number of points in your world. So let's say actually let's just name it point increaser, just to give this a small example. Now let's open this asset. Over here, just like before, I have the tab for components, and in the BP player there are quite a few that came with it that was basic components for a BP player. In this case, since this is actor, there is not much right here by default, so I'm going to just be selecting into add, and I'm going to go into stat mesh. Then with this stat mesh selected, I'm going to be able to see this details tab, and over here I have an option to select the stat mesh that I'm going to be using. If I expand this, I'm able to see everything that I have that I could place over here. In my case, I'm going to go into 3D assets, should be this one, and I'm going to just be selecting this one and placing it here. Just like that. I'm going to rotate it to face the center, like that, 90 degrees. Yeah, that should be basically it. Now, just like before, I would be able to just drag this asset, and actually just let's go to our folder where I have this asset. So just like with this, I would be able to drag this asset and place wherever I want. I think it is quite small, so I could either scale over here, or I could go into our actor here and change the scale here. I think I'm going to be doing that. So let's say something like 20 times this, and of course this for the 3-axis, like that. Save it. Let's take a look now, and it is just too big, but you know what? Why not? Why not? Let's leave it like that. That could be a great scene. So I think I'm going to make this inside the world. Yeah, I think that looks actually pretty good. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to be leaving it pretty big like that. But one thing, I want this to interact with our player somehow, because right now it's just as would be any static mesh in the world. But the difference is that since I have created this as an actor, this static mesh is only the representation of it, and I can create logic. So let's say something that could be interacting with our player, I could do that as well. So for that, I'm going into the event graph, and to teach you a little bit about blueprints, I think the best example is just to show how you could create events and connect them together. For that, I'm going to be adding a new component that's going to be a sphere collision. This one over here, and I am going to be placing it, should be right here. I need to increase this by quite a bit, so I'm going to just be leaving as 20, and the same thing for here and here. And let's take a look. That's a lot more than I expected to be, so let's go back into maybe 5. Yeah, 5 is good. 5 is, I think it is, yeah, it's not quite like I wanted. I think I'm going to be deleting a sphere, and instead I'm going to be adding a collision box. This one over here. So I'm going to just be adding this box, and again, let's take with 5, 5, and 5. And just too small still. Yeah, I think that let's just drag this inside of static mesh first. Oops, 1 second. Static mesh, add our box collision. Now it should be a little bit easier for this. So 5, 5, and 5. Let's take a look. Too big. Maybe 3, 3, and 3. So basically what I want is this to not be that much bigger than the object itself, but it's still too big. Let's see with 2. You know what? That's closer. Yeah, that's closer to what I wanted. So I'm going to be leaving as 2. So basically what I want to do with this collision box is to create an event that something is going to happen every time our player collides with this object. For that, let's go into our event graph. And as you can see, by default, it's going to be showing a few events over here. I have explained to you before about the event begin play. Now in the actor there is one to actor begin overlap. This one is what I'm going to be explaining now, but this time I am going to be using only the box. So I'm going to just, instead of using this event with our box selected, I'm going to get event that is on begin overlap. Should be this one. So add on component begin overlap at this event for the box, like that. So the reason I'm not using this one is because this would be for the actor, and I'm using for a component like that. Actually, one more thing I think I'm going to be with our stats mesh selected. I'm going to go into collisions, and let me just take a look. Yeah, it is by default to block aerodynamic, and that's what I want. But for this collision box, I want to overlap everything. So as you can see, it is by default like that, but if it was not, I would change this to be overlap aerodynamic, because I don't want our player to not be able to move through this box. So this is the main difference between the collisions presets. You can make something to overlap. The overlapping means that he's not going to be blocked by that. So let's say if I go into this world and I walk into this, that collision box is not going to block me, as you can see, but this actor should block me, and it's not blocking for some reason, but he should. Let's see the reason for that. Block aerodynamic. Maybe it does not has collision by default. That could be the reason. So let's take a look to our static mesh. I think I'm going to be adding. I'm not sure yet. Maybe. Yeah, a more specific type of collision I'm going to be adding. I'm not sure, because I was thinking maybe of him being able to walk around here. But you know what, there is no need for that. For this example, I just need it to get closer, and that should be working fine now. Let's take a look. Wait a bit, saving packages. Just 1 second. Take a little bit longer than I expected. So yeah, let's go again. So if I walk close to it now, it should have collision. Let's take a look, and as you can see, I'm blocked because there is collision. But the other box collision that should be over here is not blocking me. I think I might, yeah, as you can see, there is quite a distance for that. So now in this event on component begin overlap, I want to cast and create an event in our player. So there are multiple ways that I could set events in our player. The first one is just right click and then search for custom. Actually, I think my widget is back to small again for some reason. I'm going to just be increasing it. You don't need to do that. I'm going to do that only because it's easier for you to see. So again, here I'm going to search for custom event, add custom event. So what is this custom event? Custom event is basically anything you want. You want to create an event that should be doing anything your character in your blueprint. That's basically it. It's a custom event. So I think for this I'm going to just be naming it increase points, like that. So this event should increase the number of points that our character has. There are other types of ways to do this. I could, instead of doing that, let's just name it this as custom event as well. And there are other ways to do that. I could instead create a function. To create a function, I would go into here, into functions, and add a new one. This one, let's just say increase points function, like that. So what I'm going to be doing is to basically try to do the same thing over here and here to show you the difference between the two of them. First thing, I'm going to be creating a variable that's going to be for our points, only for demonstration. So let's create a new variable by selecting it over here. Let's name it current points. And if with this selected, I can change the type over here. I think I'm going to be select as integer. And let's create a new one. That's going to be our max points. And why not create another one to, let's say, start points. That's going to be the number of points that we're going to be starting with. So just to give a small demonstration, I have explained about the event begin play, but this is going to play only once at the start. To show you one way that you could use this event besides this, it's, let's say, if I want our player to start with 2 points. And if this variable for current point is what's going to be displaying. I could, let's say, get current points, set this at the event begin play, get our starter points, place it like that. This is going to give the value of this variable into our current points, and later on I would be able to change this variable without affecting this one. That is possible as well. So let's say if I want to, instead of that, I want to detect if I have reached the max number of points for our character. So there is another event that I could use for that. That is the event tick. So for that, let's say I create a branch from this. A branch, I don't remember if I have explained this before, but a branch is just a way to check if a certain condition has been met. So let's say if I want to see if our current points is has hitched to our max points, then I could use a branch for that. Let's say I want something like 5 points to be the max, and if I want to check if I have reached this max, I could just get our max point and our current points, and I see if this is greater or equal to our max points. If this is true, this is going to return either false or true. And basically what this is going to do is that this event is going to be playing every tick. So different from the event begin play that would place only once. This is going to play multiple times every second. Of course, you can use the lazy font as well, but that's basically the intention of using event ticks. So let's say if he reaches the max point, I want to print a string. That's very common for debugging, saying you end game, like that. And if it's not, I'm not going to be printing anything because this is going to be playing every tick. Actually, I could play just to demonstrate. Let's just get another print string. So this print string means let's just get 3 points. Just to give you a more example. So basically, I'm going to just be copying that, place at the event begin play. I think it would be a good way to demonstrate. So for now, I'm going to break this link. Of course, to break links, I can just right click and select break this link like that. Then compile, save it. So now if I go into our Word, you're going to be seeing that this comment is going to be printed. So it's going to be showing 3 points only once at the start. So let's see. So as you can see, I have the 3 points over there. I think it's just too small. Let's just create a text. Let's say small text for demonstration of events. Like that. Compile. Let's go back again. And as you can see in the left, in the top of the right corner, I can see that print string only once at the start. But let's say instead of having this in the event begin play, I have this in the event tick over here. Let's see what it would look like. So as you can see, this event is going to be playing every tick, so it's quite a lot of times. It's going to be multiple times for every second. So I could use that to check if a certain condition has been met. If it has, then I'm going to be placing this as the end of our game. So yeah, that's basically it. So basically, I need now to be able to increase our current amount of points, and I want to do that every time our character reaches this overlap event with this character over here. So let's say if I go back into our BP point increaser, I want to increase the number of points in our character. I'm going to be doing that with both our custom event and our function. So this function should, let's say, receive input. That's going to be number of points to increase. That's basically it. It's going to be of the type integer. Then I am going to get our current points. This is very important that I'm not going to be just getting this and setting. Of course, I'm going to be set that, but I want to actually add this to our current amount of points and then setting a new value for it. Because instead, let's say if he should receive 2 points every time this event is called, if I don't do this this simple math computation, it's going to just go and set this value as the new one, so let's say 2. But this way I can update a value and increase it, just like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to be doing the same thing with our increase points function. Here again, I'm going to be creating input, and this time is going to be, I think let's just use the same name. So it should be number of points. Place it here. And same thing, I'm going to get our max, actually not our max point, our current points. Then I'm going to get it to set, and then I'm going to set this value. I'm going to add to our current amount, like that. And let's say this time for this, I want to receive back input if, let's say, if another certain condition has been met, let's say for end game. I could then, after this, get the same function that I have made over here. So just copy this with the branch, place it here, and basically let's say I want to get input from this. I could do that because this is a function. So just get output. That would be, let's say, end game, like that. This time is going to be a boolean. And I'm actually going to be displaying this, so I could not not even be used this branch. Instead, I'm going to just be getting a return nerd, add return nerd like that, and then get our boolean value into here. So now it should return if this is true or false. That's basically saying if it's our end game or not. Now compile it, save it, and yeah, that should be pretty much it. So now back in our actor, what I'm going to be doing is I can get a reference for our player from this or the actor, and I'm going to just cast to BP player, Casts is the most easier way to communicate between blueprints. So this is a way to make a direct cast, something that costs quite a bit of performance. But of course, if it is for a single event, it's not going to cost a lot. But something that you need to be very aware and be careful while using these types of events. So let's say avoid using this type of cast, this type of event, and when using something like event tick. But for this, it's going to be only once every time there is overlap, so there's no problem with that. So from that, I'm going to get the reference that's going to be for the actor and then place into our cast. And then I'm going to get the function that is to increase points. So increase points, I have the custom event and the function. So I think I'm going to be getting both just to display to you. So now get increase points function like that. So right now you can see the main difference between functions. Of course, there's a lot more for that. Functions is quite easier to use in your blueprints, and is also a common way to organize things, so it's easier to see things. But there are a few more differences. Let's say in your event graph you're able to place delays, and there's no problem with that. In a function would be a little bit more complicated for something like that. So yeah, there are quite a few differences. I think you should see by yourself. So now in our actor again, I am going to get, now I want to get a new value for both these functions, for the custom event and the function. For that, I'm going to be create a new variable that's going to be, let's say, number of points to give. Of course, if you are creating your own project, you're going to usually be using smaller names, but you're going to have some set of organization for this. Since I'm not using anything like that, just with this simple for you to understand, there's no problem for me. So I'm going to just be selecting this as an integer. Then, as you can see by default, you are not able to see it. To change the value, you need to compile it first. So compile. Now I am going to be changing it to, let's say, by default to give 1 point, like that. And then I'm going to place it here. Of course, you could set the specific value over here. I think it's best this way because, let's say, if you have different type of actors like this one, you could always change this value and it would be a little bit easier without needing to change the blueprint itself. So I'm going to just be placing it here and here. First thing that you're going to notice is that since this is being played twice, so it's going to be playing this function and in here, first going to be playing it 2 times, he should be receiving 2 points instead, and he starts with 2 and the max is 5, so it should count that event after the second overlap. Yeah, it should be. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I'm going to go into our print string. Yeah, there's no need for that. So now if I go into our Word, if I walk into this object over here, I should be seeing, the first time I'm not going to be seeing anything, but the next time I should be seeing a print string displaying the end of the game. So first time I enter, I gain 2 points, but I'm not able to see. If I go out and enter again, as you can see, end game. And it acted not only once, that's because I'm displaying this in the event tick. And of course, this print strings is only for demonstration. You're going to be using this to set events. So let's say if you want to render a game right here, you could create the logic for that over here. That's basically it. Of course, I don't have time to show all of that. I just want to give you demonstrations of how you can use these things. I was talking about cast before. One thing very important to notice is that you can replace things like this. Let's say this thing over here. You could replace this with an interface. The face is a little bit more complicated to explain, and I think there's going to be a video and this channel explain about that. So I'm not going to be explaining over here. So, but just that you know that there's usually better ways than use cast. Cast is for a specific moment. This one, there's no problem for it, but let's say if you have events that you need to play in Eventic, maybe learning how to use interfaces would make the performance of your game better. That's something that you need to keep in mind, because it's not only about creating games, it's about creating games that someone is able to play with. So it should be you need to take consideration optimization, even if you're not planning on going into selling your own game, you still need to take consideration about optimization. And yeah, I think for the final modification, I'm going to change the position of the sun. So let's go back into directional light and then rotate. And let's take a look. I think maybe like this to create a better scene. Yeah, I think that's pretty good for me. That's that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. So, yeah, let me see if I am missing something, and I don't think I am, but just to make sure. So yeah, I have covered the event tick, begin play, actually overlap, begin play. Let me see if there is anything. So you also know about the input actions, how to create new inputs, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to just be leaving comments over here. So this is increase points custom event show bubble. This is our event tick show bubble. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for watching. I know that there's a lot of tools in Unreal Engine, and it might be a little bit overwhelming at the start, but don't worry about. Just like I think for the softer areas that there is, I think gaming, creating games is one of the best ones, because even though it might be complicated, at the same time, once you come back here and you play something, you play your own game and have fun with your own game, things might get a little bit more brighter. So yeah, just stick with it, and remember that it's just about practice and practice till you learn how to do things right. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Visit training.memtinteract.com and enroll in this course to get all source files. Use coupon code MEMET to enroll for free.